particularly from the sort of the dressing room point of view, and it's been said about Chelsea over generations of players that it's a very demanding dressing room. But I wonder, we're going to look at the first. That was his 100th game last night in charge. So, and it's quite an interesting split between the first 50 games, comes in, takes over, fixes everything, wins the Champions League, and the big difference being, not huge difference between the first 50 games and the last 50 games in terms of wins and draws, etc., goals scored, but the goals against, 24 goals conceded in the first 50 games and 53 then in the second chunk of 50 games. So something clearly changed. There was some sort of
when he came
issue.
in, first of all, he was like a breath of fresh air, and he had a style of football which almost nullified Man City at the time. It was, I think, the semi-final of the FA Cup, Champions League final, and a league game where they beat them 1-0 on 3 occasions. And the style of football, it was energetic, they were closing people down, they were pressing. Then they started to win the trophies and it all seemed to stop. And it's happened before with the Chelsea groups where they go become really successful, win a European trophy or win a league, and the following season they can't back it up. The biggest surprise is, though, why the owners would give him £278 million to spend and then sack him 6 or 7 games down the line.
I mean, some of the signs in the last few days.
Aubameyang in particular.
Aubameyang is one that he's worked with in the past. He obviously felt that might be a solution to the lack of a main man focal point centre forward. Zakaria, another one from Juventus. He would have known him very well from his time in Germany. I think it was Leverkusen. He was a very good player there, Swiss international player. And then when he signed his at the end of the transfer window. So it's very strange. The other one was Anthony Gordon. It almost looked like they were trying to force Anthony Gordon on him and that it was going to go to 60 million. I mean, Anthony Gordon hasn't done enough by any means to go for that sort of money. And who is he going to be better than that they have already? They have lots of those sort of, I'd say, skinny, nicky-nacky front players. That's not really what they need.
So, but I just think that's an interesting point. You touched on there, Richard, that the phenomenon or the sequence of Chelsea, different squads and different personnel, but that there is something within the club or within the culture that have a big success. Next season, things kind of go a bit pear-shaped. Like, do you think that those players just had enough of them and perhaps that relationship broke down? The
players traditionally at Chelsea have been, as a group, stronger than the manager. They've sort of gone along with it, listened to it, got a bit of success, got a little bit fed up, thought, right, let's change this thing. And as a group, they down tools, not just 1 or 2 players. As a group, they all seem to change their mentality and their ideas. And again, and you worry almost for Potter if it is him who comes in. Is he a strong enough character to look after a squad as powerful as Chelsea's? And like you say, it's not this group of players, it's the previous group of players, and it's something within the club where they all seem to feel after a certain period of time they get into their comfort zone. I'm the best player here, I've won this, I've won that, and all of a sudden they turn on the manager. But again, the sacking of manager, you look at it and you think it's probably not the right time, it's not the right thing to do, but it's generally worked out quite well for Chelsea. They've ended up seasons with success.
And just to touch on that, by the way, Anthony Barry, who we know well from his time with Ireland, is in temporary charge at the moment, but they have got permission to speak with Graham Potter at Brighton. Would you think that it's like a completely different world he'd be going into from Brighton to Chelsea? It's
a huge step up for him to come from Brighton into a club the size of Chelsea, and the expectations are obviously huge. But probably from the outside looking at it, if he was to be sacked in 18 months, I don't think anyone would be massively surprised. So it's not going to harm his CV. It's an opportunity and experience for him, and he has to take it if it comes. But he must know somewhere down the line things are going to turn for him.